So now it's a skills-based market. People that are skilled up, they're going to get their share of the 4 million transactions that are going to be done today.
Right.
How are you skilling up? What does that look like for you in maintaining?
Yeah, so I have money set aside for that. Maybe not enough, but I definitely have enough to purchase several. So that's the plan. But I know plenty of people that are my age that have been doing this about the same time. I mean, they have a lot more money saved up. So it's all relative, right?
Yep.
That's. I mean, I keep it pretty simple. I stick with real estate.
So today on the Mark Ramey podcast, we have an amazing agent, a longtime agent who I respect and hold in high regard, Hojin Chang.
Thank you,
What
Mark.
I love most about Hojin is, it's my pleasure, Hojin, is that day in and day out, I would come into the office for years and years and years. I mean, we're all kind of in our own spaces now with what COVID did to us.
Sure.
And there was only one other person's car that I saw in the parking lot. It was Hojin. And what that said to me was, is that Hojin shows up. He shows up and he works. And so I'm really grateful to have him on today. I really believe that we have a lot to learn and gain from him. So I want to start off, though, by sharing. The intention of this podcast is to shine a light on successful agents. Learn their story, how they came to be successful, gain tactical and practical knowledge so that we all as agents can learn, implement, and grow. The key word there being implement, from understanding the success of those agents that are around us so that we are thriving in our lives and our business. So thank you again for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
It's my pleasure. Hojin, let's start off. Can you share a bit about your background and how you got started in real estate?
Oh, wow. So this is all I've ever done. So I began as a buyer's agent in 1998.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I knew everything until 2008.
Okay.
And then you quickly get humbled really quick. And, I went through a bad couple of years there and surprised. There was a few times around 2008 where I thought I was actually going to leave the business. Wow. It was so bad. But, at some point I decided, real estate is going to be my life career. And then I ran into you. So I was looking for a way to get things started again. I was just starting to kind of start doing the things that are going to make you successful. And then I have to thank you for allowing me to shadow you one day. And, like things happen for a reason. And I saw exactly what I needed to do when I shadowed you that day. It was really clear. I mean, it's the same thing I've been told I need to do for since the beginning of my career, but I just never got around to doing it.
Agents, taking that clarity, it takes time. And first off, I just want to thank you for your kindness, those kind words, Hojin. It means a lot. I wrote down two things. This is all you've ever done.
Yeah, this is
it. And you started off as a buyer's agent.
I did.
Tell me more.
For a very successful agent.
Tell me more about that. Like, what did that look like? And when you say this is all you've ever done, does that mean like since when? In 1998, when you were born in 98? No. Okay,
no.
Tell me.
That's when I graduated from college, 1998.
Okay, so you came right into real estate when you graduated from college, and you were working as a buyer's agent. Tell me about the contrast between that and, what that looked like with the transition, because I know you do a lot of listings now.
I mean, as a buyer's agent, it's very rewarding, right? If you like to please people, then it's very rewarding. You help people find, the perfect house. At the same time, from an agent perspective, I mean, there's only so much time you can devote to working with buyers because I thought I would never reach that day, but one day I was just like worn out with real estate because buyers require so much of your time. While it's rewarding, I don't think that's sustainable for years and years and years.
Well, and then two, you said a mouthful just in that alone. I mean, you shared that buyers require a lot of your time. So
They do.
so when you get that time back, and let's talk about how did you get that more time back? What did that look like for you? Was it a transition?
I decided I needed to focus more on listings. So, I started doing what everyone's taught me for years, right? Is to go prospect and focus more on listings than just working with buyers. And in the beginning, it's really hard because you have buyers that you can work with, but you kind of have to devote your time to something else. And it's something that's less familiar and requires, in my opinion, a lot more skill.
Okay. Um, that was a transition. Tell me a little bit what you mean by more skill. Talk about that.
I mean, you have to be a better salesperson. Um, I believe everything you do, like anyone can work with a buyer and be
Hmm.
successful. Um, but there's only a handful of agents out there that I believe has the skills required to just take listings and only work listings and focus mainly on that. Just because of the techniques that you use and knowledge of the market. And the biggest thing I learned from you was, you got to convey you care, but there's techniques that you can actually use to show that more clearly.
Um, you know, Hojin, it's clear that you do care. I mean, I know you've got a lot of reviews online, and getting prepared for this, I read through some of the reviews, and your clients speak volumes. They speak highly about you. Um, Talk to me a little bit about this. I wrote down it's important that you care. How does that come through, and how do you show that you care?
I mean, it's just so there's a lot of techniques, right? One of the ones that I learned from you was um, open-ended questions. So the two questions that I learned from you was um, what would that do for you? How would that make you feel, right?
Hmm.
What and how questions are probably the two best open-ended questions you can ask. And the key is not to make statements, but to phrase it in a way that it's actually a question. Because if you say it's one thing, but if they say it, it's basically the gospel, right? Um, so I recently read Split the Difference, where they actually really drill down on that. Um, so I believe little techniques like that really help you convey that you actually care instead of just out there for the sale.
Well, and two, what I'm noticing is you said something that I wrote down also. If they say it, then they believe it. And, and
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what I'm hearing that in today's market, when I first started in real estate, not everybody had access to the same information that realtors do. But nowadays,
Right.
um, essentially a client, they have access to pretty much everything that a real estate agent does. So to come in from like at a position of authority and be like, this is how it is, and this is what it is,
Right.
it's almost insulting. So talk to me a little bit about if they say it. How do you bring a client around to them self-discovering?
And again, it's you leave it open ended, you let them expand, then you know affirm that their answer is terrific, right? Um, so you repeat and affirm, and you keep letting them go on about what their needs are, what's important to them. Um, those are the biggest keys. If they do most of the talking, you've actually won. So that's the goal of the whole conversation.
I love that. If they do most of the talking, you've actually won. And then the client actually wins
No,
because you're guiding them to really their desired outcome is what I'm here is
yeah,
what
nobody cares about what I have to say, right?
I'm No, you're exactly correct. And then I also I wrote down the criteria questions that you shared, which is what's important about, how's that important,
Yeah,
and ultimately how does that make you feel? And
right,
what I'm hearing that you're driving at is why people move. There's so many agents that I run into, Hojin, where and I've done hundreds and hundreds of role plays. You've done them too, I'm sure,
right.
where they're closing just from a surface level. In other words, they're water skiing as opposed to going deep diving.
Digging
Yeah,
deep,
exactly.
right.
And most of the closes that I would get when I'm role playing with agents is if I could get you more for your house, or if I could get you there
Right.
faster, that seems to be an assumption of what a client's motivation might be. You know,
Right. And that may not necessarily be the case, right? So there's a technique that I learned years ago. It's called going three deep. Whatever their answer
mm,
is, you just say, "That's interesting. Tell me more," and you just keep going deeper and deeper. And the clients basically sell themselves, right?
yes, yes, they do. When you allow them to self-discover, that's rich. So I'm curious, from way back, what would you say inspired you to become a real estate agent? I mean, here you were college educated. What brought you to decide that this was the journey or the path for you?
I mean, it was really an accident because the way I looked at it was, okay, I have no idea what I want to do. I need to get a job. I got to do something for a living. So I figured this is a way to meet people in all different fields, different careers, and I can then decide which route I want to go. But what I didn't realize was how much fun it was and how much you can design your life to the way you want it, right?
Yep.
Because if you want to work weekends, you can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you want to take off during the week, you can as
Yeah.
well. If you want to make $1 million, you can. If you want to make $100,000, you can. So there's no other career where you can actually do that.
Hojin, I'm
And
sorry, I didn't mean please go ahead and finish.
I mean, that's basically it. I mean, it's so cool that you can do that in this field versus any other career out there.
So on that note, as you just said a lot right there. If you want to make 100,000, you can. If you want to make $1 million, you can. What strategies have you found that are most successful for you in building your business to bring the income that is important to you?
I mean, it's pretty simple. It's the same thing they've been teaching since I was a beginner. It's your database, and you got to get out there and build your database somehow. So you talk to as many people as possible, and then obviously you have to treat everyone well, and you get repeat clients. I mean, there's no secret
Okay.
sauce. I know of a bunch of agents last year or a couple years ago, they started paying Zillow. Um, they did tons of business. Um, I know several people that started in the business like 3 years ago. They started paying Zillow. They probably sold like anywhere from 15 to 20 million dollars.
Mm.
Um, but what they're quickly starting to realize is now Zillow's up their
Mm-hmm.
prices and basically getting pushed out. So their production has gone to practically nothing, and what they're noticing now is it's still the basics, right? You still got to go make contacts. You got to build a database. There's no shortcuts.
Even if Zillow,
I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. There's no overnight sensation. You just got to go to work every day and pound the pavement.
even if Zillow brings the lead to us, we still have to convert that lead.
Right. So you have to have skills required to do that. Obviously, those agents that started recently, they came from other sales careers and, they had some sales, you know, prowess, I guess. But at the same time, you still have to generate leads,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you can't just depend on that. And the way you generate leads is treat people right and talk to as many people as possible.
No,
It's pretty
that
simple.
makes a lot of sense. So, I heard recently, the other day, on that note, a statistic, Hojin, where the National Association of Realtors shared that for every 10 listing appointments that an agent will go on, they'll receive two.
That's amazing. I mean, my conversion rate is much higher than that. I've been tracking it for like probably 10 years now.
So I believe that of you. I've gone up and competed against you and lost to you. Um,
I've lost to you as well.
and we do it in good fun, right? Right? That's okay.
Yeah, it
And we
is.
learn from each other as well. So share with me what what specifically are you bringing into your business, or what tips would you share with agents so that their conversion ratio would be more like where you're at? I'm imagining you're floating around 70-80% or more, right?
It's 70, 80%. And the biggest thing is just having a script, right? Then you can make it your own. And I fought it for years and years and years because I genuinely want it to be more authentic and show that I cared. But having the script allows you to do that. Um, so that's a realization I came to years later. I wish I would have just realized it right off the bat, but I'm a slow learner.
You and I both. I hear you. You said I wrote this down. What you just said. Having a script allows me to be more authentic. Expound on that. Tell me more about that.
It just allows you to cover like what you'd like to cover and convey what you'd like to convey. So having a script allows you to do that because I just came from a listing presentation, and the whole presentation, the the owners just wanted to go off in tangents.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunny trail here, a bunny trail
Yep.
there, and it allows you not to go down those bunny trails,
Or
or else we would have been there for three
yes,
hours.
exactly, exactly. Or if you do go down a bunny trail, you've got something to come back to bring the client back on track.
Absolutely, that's the biggest thing.
That's
So it's really like a roadmap when you're it's blueprints for building a house. It's the same thing, right?
Yep. I found that when I took the time and literally I did it over the course of about a year, memorizing my listing presentation, and it got internalized into me. What you just said started to happen. I started to have a lot more fun because when I didn't have to think about what I was going to say next, I became a much better listener.
Yeah, that's really the biggest key,
Yep,
right? You have to listen,
absolutely.
allow them to talk.
And when we listen more, we can hear for those little nuggets that are really super important. Like you said, what's important to the client. I wrote that down also, what you said.
Yeah. So when I do the role plays, it's always about trying to dig for motivation.
Yeah.
And it allows you to do that much easier when you actually have a script and you have a roadmap.
Yep. Motivation is never faster, more, faster. It's usually always going to be tied to an emotional reason. Thank you for that. Um, how do you find that you're successful, particularly after you've serviced a client? How have you established and maintained strong connections and relationships with your clients? What does that look like for you, Hojin?
That's probably an area I could use improvement on for some reason. I just like to hunt. Um, but the way I've been doing it is, obviously they have a database. I get so many emails just like everybody
Mm-hmm.
else. The big key for me is I use automatic dialer,
Mm-hmm.
and all of my past clients, they get a phone call every 90 days.
Oh, wow.
It's on my daily to-dos, and all I do is just, I click on the day, and that's the day I'm supposed to talk to those clients.
Ev-
And the conversations are much more effective than anything you can send or do for them. Like all you're trying to find out is what can you do for them that could be useful, right? Or of value.
So, what types of value are you bringing to these conversations? Because I know for myself personally, for many, many years, Hojin, I was a hunter also. And I
Yeah.
was actually afraid to pick up the phone to call past clients because honestly, I was afraid that I felt like I was wasting their time. So,
I felt the same way, so totally get it.
so when we bring value to a client, then we're not really wasting their time, are we?
No, and a lot of times it ends up being a great conversation, right? Um, So it's just catching up on what's going on in their life, and then as far as value, a lot of times just information about the
Mm-hmm.
market or different vendors that you might have developed over the years. They might need a floor guy or a roofer or anything along those lines. It's just to help them, right?
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be related to real estate. Anything you can do to um, enrich their lives, and that's something of value. So that's the biggest goal for me when I call is okay. So how could I bring value to these people today, or just make their life a little bit easier, at least for when we speak.
So I wrote down two things. I wrote down, as you shared, the floor guy or vendors. That's how we're valuable to our
Right.
clients. And then I also wrote
Yeah,
down what's happening in the market, and that is valuable because
it
we can hear
is.
stuff from the news, but the news isn't always delivering the real story. So, talk a little bit about how you're bringing that value. How do you come across your market insights? Where do you get that information from?
I mean, it's pretty easy. I've been doing this so long. I just look it up in the MLS. as we talk because I know where they live and what market they're interested in. And then I give them a general overview of the market just with the stats we get from the MLS every month.
So what I heard you say is it is easy. It's not hard for us to be that local expert because the information is accessible to us.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I literally just pull it up as we're
Yeah.
talking because I don't even think about it ahead of time. I mean, and then now it's just so easy to text it to them, whatever comps they might be interested in. Um, so I think everyone's sensing a change in the market right now. So people are really interested in hearing about that and how it's affecting certain markets, right? Because it's changing. And I feel like it's just come back to a normal market, but we're not used to that right now.
No, right? From a speed-based market, 2022, when we did 6 million transactions, to now it's a skills-based market. The people that are skilled up, they're going to get their share of the 4 million transactions that are going to be done today.
Right.
How are you skilling up? What does that look like for you in maintaining?
Um, for me, I just go through all of the classes that I've taken through. So as a daily routine, in the mornings, I just listen to something, um, whether it be the NLP class or some of the past role plays I've done, and I just listen to. A lot of it happens from just listening. So if you have it in the background all the
Mm-hmm.
time, for me, I just find that when I'm in a certain conversation, it comes to me because I listen to it all the time. Um, and there's some value in that, right? Because it just becomes like unconsciously, like it's in there somehow.
Yeah.
Um, so listening to it all the time for me when I drive around, especially in the mornings, um, that really helps me a lot. And I would say one thing we haven't touched on is the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So like this year has been a transition year for me as well, a little bit because I mean it was a little bit slower in the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and then I thought about everything that I wanted and how I want to accomplish it. And as soon as I changed that mindset, I mean literally I made a cold call, never talked to these before, just trying to get a listing. It was just listed, just sold call. I was having a bad year. All of a sudden, they were like, "This is your lucky day." We literally saw two houses. They bought one for $3 million, and in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll list their house for about two and a half.
So,
So it was the mindset more so than anything else.
what shifted that caused you to pick up? What did you do? Because clearly it came from a call, is what I'm hearing you say. It came from a phone
Yeah.
call. What shifted inside you, and maybe what steps did you take to cause that mindset to shift? Because we're all dealing with it, Hojin. You're not alone.
Um, I mean, I just focused on okay, well, what do I want my life to look like? What's important to me, right? So once you have that clear in your mind, then the actions become a lot clearer.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't want to be overweight, you got to eat right and you got to
Yep.
exercise,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
But like you have to have it clear that you don't want to be overweight.
Oh yeah.
So um, so that's all it took for me. I mean, you just have to have a clear mindset about where do you want to be, what do you want to accomplish in life, what do you want your life to look like, and then the actions become really clear.
Now it's one thing, and my hat's off to you because you obviously had a defining moment at the beginning of this year where you discovered what it was that you wanted. Now, how do you maintain that? What does that look like?
For me, I write it down. A lot of people like to have the dream boards. I'm not a dream board guy. To me, it's the dream board's already in my head, so it's pretty clear for
Yep.
me. Um, and I don't need a lot of possessions. I do need a certain amount of income though.
Yeah.
Um, and biggest thing for me is just family and people that are close to me. The rest of it is all just you know it's not important.
I love that you said that. Family and people that are close to me. I mean, because
The rest of it is all just noise,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Things happen in your life. I've had some things happen in my life. My dad's going through some health issues, and um, I've seen some other people actually pass away from health issues. And what you realize, and this has all happened within the past several years, is that okay? Well, what's important to you in your life, right?
Yeah.
It's just your family and your people that are close to you, and that's the biggest thing. That's how you take care of them, right? You have to have a certain amount of income to allow you the freedom to help them out, right?
Yeah, for sure. What you're describing right now is something that I've heard recently when I read a book called Margin, and the book discusses margin. Margin is the difference between excess of what you might have and what you need. And margin, the book talks about margin in money. It also talks about margin in
Right.
time, and it talks about margin in energy. And you just brought up something really important, that margin in time gives us that extra time with family, or it might give you the ability to, when your dad's going through challenges, that you can be there
You
for
can
him.
actually be
Yeah.
there. If you're a buyer's agent, it's tough to do that if you're working with 10 buyers. But if you're a listing agent, you have a lot more freedom.
I'm hearing a resounding theme. List, right?
You list, you last. I've heard that for years. I didn't believe it until like maybe 10 years ago.
Right, and look at where you've come to. So on the note of margin, like let's talk about time, uh,
Right.
or energy or money. You pick. Where would you say that you've excelled, and then maybe where would you say that you might need a little bit of work?
Probably time is probably the one that I struggle with the most,
Yeah.
right? Just because there's only so many hours in a day. Um, I mean, we all struggle. I don't care how much money you have. Everyone's biggest struggle is time, right? You only have so much time in your life. You only have so much time with, people that you love. You only have so much time to devote to things. Um, so I find that's a constant struggle for me. But the one thing I found is that the more discipline you have allows you more freedom to have time somewhere else.
What do you mean by that? Discipline doesn't sound fun to me. Talk to me a little more about that.
Well, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
fun, but like having freedom with your time is fun,
Yes.
right? Being able to be there for people that you love, that's more fun,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, it's like going back to the gym, same thing. Like, you have to spend time in the gym. Nobody likes to go to the gym, I don't think. At least I don't. But the time you spend there allows you to the freedom to be better fit and be there, um, more mentally and physically. So it's the same thing with prospecting and everything else in your work. If you're disciplined about starting at a certain time, ending at a certain time, and getting everything that you want accomplished in that time that you decided you're working, um, if you can be more effective there, then it allows you to have more time somewhere else.
So what I'm hearing, and I wrote down these two things, is that as you focus, I mean, really hone in and focus on what you're supposed to be doing, whether that if that's at the gym, you're gaining margin in your energy, right? Because as
Yeah,
we go to the gym and we work out, our bodies are getting used to what we expect of them, right? And then I'm
right.
also hearing that as in business, if we focus on prospecting and what we're supposed to be doing at certain times, then we're going to gain the results that we want, so that there's more time outside of that, for us to enjoy time and have that margin with our family.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest key. I mean, it's sometimes you don't want to go to work. Sometimes you don't want to go to the gym. But that discipline allows you to have the time somewhere else.
So let's talk about that, because everybody envisions a time when they may not want to go to work, right? And
Yeah.
what that requires would be margin with money. So what are you doing with your financial resources that are giving you an opportunity to someday just say, I've got a choice. I don't have to do this anymore. Are you investing? What does that look like for you?
I mean, and again, this is an area that I can improve a lot on.
Okay. We all can.
Um, yeah. But one thing I learned years back is you divide everything in the third. So let's say you make
Mm-hmm.
$90,000. Um, you put 30 grand is for personal
Mm-hmm.
income. Um, 30 grand is for savings and taxes, and then 30 grand stays in your business. Um, so I've always separated things out. So if I make 90,000, I only have 30,000 to spend.
So you're
So you can't spend it all. I see so many agents that make a lot more money than I do. They have no money
Yeah.
in savings because they have to spend it all.
Yep.
For some reason, real estate agents love to do that,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And not even pay their taxes for years back.
They're
Um,
notorious.
so again, that's where the discipline comes in. If you make 90,000, you can't spend 90,000. Um, so that's part of it. I've bought a few investment properties here and there.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
hoping then I'm hoping the market's going to, become a little bit more affordable, and I have money set aside to purchase some rentals as they come, if the market becomes more affordable. Um, and then I just have some investments in stock. But my focus is, when I work with my coach, like the past 10 years, we set up, a goal to set aside so much money for when the market becomes more affordable, then we're going to start purchasing more rental properties.
Nice. So you've been planning.
Um, Yeah, so I have money set aside for that. Maybe not enough, but I definitely have enough to purchase several. Um, so that's the plan. Um, but I know plenty of people that are my age that have been doing this about the same time. I mean, they have a lot more money saved up. So it's all relative, right?
Yep.
Um, but that's. I mean, I keep it pretty simple. I stick with real estate. You got to save money. You can't spend it all. Um, and just being disciplined about putting it aside. And now that money that's set aside is actually earning a decent income because the interest rates are so high.
Yep. Oh yeah. Reserves.
So it's actually earning some money
Yes. Good for you.
until we wait the market
It's
out.
not dead money, right? Where it's just sitting in a savings account.
No, you're getting like 4.5 to five and a
Yep.
half,
Oh yeah, for sure.
which is a pretty good return on just the savings account.
So take me through. You shared early on in our conversation, you shared that in 2008 you almost got out of the business.
I did. I mean, it was. I mean, I never even saw that coming. I mean, I really didn't. And I had some investment properties that I got stuck into, just like a lot of other people. And I mean, I had no money coming in. I lost basically everything that I had, other than my house. I managed to keep my house, but everything else, I mean, I was in debt, and it's the worst feeling ever. And and that's part of the reason why you have to have money set aside, right? Because you just never know what's going to happen in the market, and you know, and your mindset. It's hard. It's tough to keep a good mindset when nothing's happening and
Or when you
everything's
don't,
falling
yeah,
down
when you
around
don't,
you.
yeah, exactly, when you don't have those reserves. And first of all, I want to thank you for your authenticity, because who didn't experience a level of hardship during 2008? And I guess here's a
Yeah.
question, and I get asked this frequently. Um, what was it that caused you to be able to maintain and come through that time and be on the other side of this? Because, and the reason I ask this question is, there's 1.5 million agents in the country today.
Right.
And the
Wow.
last time that we sold 4 million homes in this country was 2012, which was still
Right.
during that
That was
rough
the
time.
bottom of the
That's
market.
correct.
Right.
And things are changing in the market. And 80% of agents within a year are not in this business. So having insight into, first of all, thank you for sharing that hardship, but how did you pull yourself through that, Hojin? What caused you to still
Um,
be here today?
my rock bottom was I just had bills stacking up and I had to borrow money from my parents. And for me, that was just a pride thing. I just never wanted to go there again. But they lent me the money. I paid them
Yeah.
back. But like, just having to go there and borrow money from my parents, I just feel like that was rock bottom for me. I was like, what do I need to do? I need to get my stuff together and figure this thing out.
So it totally sucked, and then
Yeah.
the suck is what drove you, because you weren't going to be in debt with your parents. I can get that from you. You weren't going
No.
to have that, and so that is what I'm imagining. The anger, the anxiety drove you to, like, this isn't going to be me. Am I
That
hearing?
was my rock bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've talked a lot about manifesting things.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time when I mean, literally, I'm really big into fishing bass tournaments,
I
right? I've
know.
always wanted to do it, and I had a little extra time to do it at that time. So literally, I mean, I had so little money. I was sleeping in my car in Arkansas to
Mm,
fish this tournament. I had to borrow money for gas.
Hmm.
Um, and lo and behold, I won $50,000. That's the only time I've ever won $50,000 in a fishing tournament. So I was able to pay my parents back and then kind of get myself going with that money.
what I'm he-
But like I was really focused on like, okay, how do I dig myself out of this hole? And then somehow it just happened, right? Like you focus on like what's important to you, and then somehow things just happen. Just like the call I had earlier this year, like literally I was like, well, what is going on here? I know I'm better than this. Why am I not closing more business? And all of a sudden, as soon as you make things clear, you make a $3 million sale, showing them two houses.
I love what you just said. I wrote it down. I know I'm better than this.
Yeah.
That is
And
huge.
I feel like a lot of people are missing that part of it, right? And that's another part of I feel like that's what drives me is like working hard makes me feel like I deserve it
Yeah.
or I'm entitled to it. Um, so I don't feel a lot of people have that mindset, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, they just feel no matter how hard they work, things just aren't going to happen.
I also wrote down focus on what's important to you. And what I'm hearing from you, and by the way, I have to tell you a truth here. There's a secret to why I really wanted you on this podcast today, is because I know you're a killer bass fisherman. And when I go fishing, I don't like to go fishing, Hojin. I prefer to go catching. And I'm
Yeah,
not a good bass fisherman. So I don't mean to go off subject here, but one of the secret reasons why I had you on this podcast was I really hope that you would take me bass fishing sometime.
let's go
So thank you.
for
Okay,
sure.
I'm going to hold you to that because I'm noticing I wrote down focus on what's important to you. And so much so, you were so focused on what was important to you, Hojin. You slept in your freaking car.
Yeah, I had to borrow money for gas. I had to use my points on my credit card so I could pay for the
Yeah,
hotel.
that's faith. You step forward, and I think that's awesome. And from that, you had faith in what you could do, is what it really was.
Well, I mean, it was beyond what I thought I could do. I mean, it just sometimes things just happen for you, right? And a lot of it has to do with faith. A lot of it has to do with, your belief in yourself.
Yep, that's awesome. So you've come a long way since 2008.
Yeah.
You've obviously forged a lot of relationships with great clients. Um, I'm curious, can you share a memorable success story or a challenge that like you faced while working with a client and maybe some like lessons that you learned from that? What came from it?
There's so many of them, Mark. You learn a lesson almost every single
Hmm.
day. I mean, nothing's really like coming to mind. Um, but most of it just has to do with like I mean, our job is so rewarding because y- you just help people accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Hmm.
Um, so when you do that, it's really rewarding. Um, I mean, I'm trying to think of a specific example.
Think crazy.
There's so
Think
many
like, oh
of
my
them.
God, I never expected this to happen in real estate.
That's like every day.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, I don't know, Mark. I mean, I'm drawing a blank there. Maybe too much pressure.
Or perhaps it's just that you're really good at being like, what is it? What Ted Lasso says, being a goldfish. A goldfish's memory is 10 seconds long. And so when he
Yeah.
told his player, be a goldfish, essentially what he was telling us is, don't hold on to this too long. Don't.
Um, I feel like I'm more of a goldfish. I mean, as far as I'm a better listener than a speaker.
Mhm.
Um, but like, I wish I can forget stuff a lot quicker than I'm capable of.
Well, clearly, it's a strength of yours because you're successful. You have a lot of clients. That's something that you've built internally, that success where you don't give up because you see what you're striving for. So, right now, when you shared what caused you to get back on the phone earlier this year, it's because you focused,
Right.
I wrote down, you focus on what you wanted.
Yeah.
What is it that motivates you right now? What is it that you want? I know you got married within the last year, right?
Yeah. So I want a better life for my family. I want to help out my parents. I want to have more time with them because they're getting much older.
Hmm.
So you start to realize like, man, my time there is very limited because you see your friends' parents kind of pass away. I've seen several of them pass away over the past several years, and um, I mean, you don't get that time back, right?
No. 27,750
So
days is what the average human gets. So you're exactly correct.
yeah, so whatever time you can get with them, I mean, when they're older, I mean, that's more valuable than any kind of monetary amount. But you got to be able to pay your mortgage, and you got to have things, you got to have money,
Yeah.
right? But like, it doesn't have to be seven figures for me.
So what you're saying is it doesn't have to be someone else's goal that you should be chasing
Yeah,
after.
that's the cool part about real estate. You can create your own goals and design it where you put as much time as you want or as little time as you want. You can still be successful at it. You just have to be disciplined with your time
I've heard it said
and know what's important to you.
very much so. I've heard it said, and I believe this was the Buddha said this: all unhappiness is caused by comparison.
Yeah, why? I mean, what's the point, right? I mean, I believe that's part of the saving grace for me because I don't really care. Like I want a nice car, but I don't have to have the best car out there, and just that's not what's important.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, that's rich. So I guess knowing what we know and what we're seeing in this market, where do you think this market is going, Hojin? You've got a lot of years under your belt. Talk to us.
Um, it all depends on the interest rates, right? But I feel like we're probably going to be like where we were at 7, 8 years ago. You know, probably, I don't know, 45, 90 days to get a property sold on average. A lot more inventory. Back to a normal market. I mean, 7, 8% is still a normal market.
Hmm.
Historically, it's really low. Um, I've been hearing the rates are going to come back down second quarter of next year, but who knows? Like before 2008, all the experts said they don't see an end in sight, so nobody knows.
No, we don't. We don't have a crystal ball. I guess, really what it comes down to is how we can adapt to change. And, you've been in the business longer than I have, since 1998. Um, Clearly, getting through 2008, you've had to adapt through a lot of change.
Yeah.
How do you adapt to changes in the real estate landscape, such as like, I don't know, technology or shifts in the market dynamics, things like that?
I mean, there's not much to shift to. The basics are the same,
Hmm.
right? I mean, you just build your database, you treat people right, and I mean, everything's going to take care of itself. I mean, they come up with all these new things that you can get leads from and so forth. I've tried them. And every time I try one, I'm just like, what am I ever going to learn? Why do I need to spend money on this stuff? Stuff doesn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah. What?
It's the
Yeah,
basics. You got to talk to
yeah,
people and go meet with them.
yeah.
That's it,
That's rich.
And then you have to be skilled.
Yep. What I love is, no matter how many shiny objects are out there, what I wrote down that you said is build a database and care for it. The basics will never go away.
I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, you can't. I mean, I've tried it. Even in the past couple of years, I've tried the smart targeting thing. That doesn't work. I've tried Dave Ramsey. That doesn't work. They're basically selling you web leads.
Hmm.
Um, Tried some other things. I mean, none of it works.
So,
I mean, you could get a deal here and there, but it's not consistent.
so to really hone in on what these last, well, I mean, you're 25 years in the business now, aren't you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess
To
so.
really hone in on what these 25 years have taught you, Hojin, which is a lot of value and a lot of importance. If you were speaking to, let's say, young Hojin or a new agent into the
Right.
business, what what's the top two or three things that you would suggest that an agent do or focus on or learn so that they can have success?
Um, Probably one of the biggest things I should have done right off the bat was get coaching right away instead of thinking I can just learn it on my
Hmm.
own. Um, I don't think most people do not have discipline, um, to figure it out on their own. It's just a giant shortcut,
Hmm.
and the accountability is it's worth the money to do it. So if I had to do it all over again,
Hmm.
I would just pay the money and get coaching right up front, especially if you're a beginner.
Okay.
Um, and the other part of it is just honing your skill as a salesperson, um, because that's invaluable, right? And that gives you a level of confidence.
Yeah.
If you put so much time into learning your craft, like literally, I mean, Mark, they could probably drop you in Alaska tomorrow. You could figure out how to make some calls and get some listings, right?
Hmm. Yep.
There's some confidence that comes from that.
Yep. Yep.
So those are probably the two biggest things I would tell somebody that's beginning to do right off the bat.
Well, I think those are wise words. When did you be in your career, your 25 years, when did you begin being coached?
After 2008, around 2012,
Okay. Okay. Got it.
12 or 13,
It was a
right?
tricky time, right?
It was, but like that's when you figure out, okay, well, this is where I have to be disciplined. I need somebody like coaching me,
Hmm.
right? Um, and I mean, I've had coaches my entire life. Growing up, I played competitive tennis, so I've pretty much had a coach like my entire
Hmm.
life. So that was an aha moment for me. It's like, man, I've had a coach my whole life. Why wouldn't I have one in like my main career in life?
Hojin, you're saying a lot there because when you think about, what it takes to become a real estate agent, the bar is quite low. I mean, essentially you need $1,000, you need to get a 70 on a test, and you need to not have a criminal record.
Right.
Now,
And sometimes that doesn't even stop you.
right, exactly. And that 70 on that test, was anything on that test anything that we're actually using in selling real estate today?
They don't teach you any of that stuff on the real estate test, you know?
So what is it that you're receiving from a coach that you really couldn't get from, just by taking a real estate test, or that you could get from like your broker, so to speak?
You get so much more. Because like, so I mean, I haven't had a coach this past year.
Hmm.
So what I transitioned to was, okay, my broker is actually my
Hmm.
coach. So so over the past year, I've actually been, I have an accountability meeting every Tuesday. Um, but what you don't get uh, is from the coaching is the coach talks to a lot of successful agents.
Hmm.
So they bring that to the table versus like your broker. They just, you know, eh, it's not the same. I mean, the level of advice is nowhere near what you get from a good coach. Um, they're not able to help you enhance your skills because obviously you want somebody as good, if not better, than you to help you enhance your skills, right? So if you were a tennis player and you had a terrible backhand,
Hmm.
you want to go to somebody that knows a lot about the backhand,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I get that.
So that's the biggest difference is like, okay, well, the broker can kind of keep you accountable. That's one part of it.
Right.
But to enhance your skills in other areas, um, you're just not getting that level of expertise because they speak with so many different agents that are successful and obviously some that are not. They're working their way up. They can give you that insight versus your broker.
What I'm hearing is proximity and collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of that with a really good
Yeah.
coach. I mean, that's probably the value that they bring.
Yeah.
And they're just rephrasing what they hear from successful agents. Well, this is working over here.
Yeah.
This should probably work for you based on what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Um, so that's probably more valuable than anything else that you get from a coach.
Hojin, 4 years ago, I hired my current coach because I went too long thinking that I knew it all.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
don't know how we get like that.
right? And I was like 16, 17 years in the business, and here I was thinking that I knew it all. And what I observed is my sales and my success weren't going like this; they were going like
Right,
this. And
right.
just that you know that, and you're willing to share that, and you're authentic about it, um, that's an indication as to why you've had so much success over the last 25 years. It's huge.
It's not always good, you know. Sometimes you have bad years, then you got to adjust and refocus on what's important to you, and
Absolutely.
then you then you become clear on what you have to do.
Well, Hojin, as I shared with you in the beginning, the purpose of this call really is to, and the purpose and the intention is to shine a light on successful agents. You are a successful agent, to learn their story and how they became successful, gain tactical and practical knowledge so that we as agents can learn, implement, and grow. And I want to express gratitude for your willingness to come and open up and share, where you have done really well and maybe where you could have grown, because all the agents, I don't care who you are, can benefit from hearing this message. And I really am grateful for you taking some time. If an agent wanted to, or if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for growing their real estate portfolio, how would they get a hold of you?
Probably the easiest way is my phone.
Okay.
It's 407-234-8659. Um, you can reach out anytime, you know.
Hojin, I'm super grateful for you. It's inspiring to see what you're doing, and I'm honored that you remembered that day when we were able to shadow with each other and learn with each other. And it feels good to do that again today. So thank you kindly. I'm grateful for everything, and I'm holding you to that fishing invitation.
Okay, we're gonna do it for sure.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Hojin.